You're welcome back to Morning Express. Now, for the second leg of discussions on the program, we're being graced in the studio by Dr. Steve Okwori, a stalwart security expert, a friend of the station, a patriotic Nigerian who loves lending his thoughts to matters of national security and national interest in general. A very good morning to you, Dr. Steve. Wonderful to have you in the studio once
Yeah,
again.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, first things first, we saw a recent move by the Kano State Governor, Yusuf, signing into law the Kano Security Watch Bill. This is in a bid to combat, crime and criminality in the state, with its own peculiarity to Kano State. When I first got the news, the first thing that came to mind was state policing. Are we charting a course towards that direction?
Yeah, yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay.
I think I've said it times with that number that one of the quickest and fastest way to tackle crime in Nigeria is to see how to go local, right? And for the Kano State government to be signing a bill establishing their own local security structure, I think is a way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a welcome development, and other states have been doing that. Kano is not the only state that started it. You know, just it's not about signing the bill, establishing such structure. I think that they should look out for a way to see how to go beyond just signing the bill and having the officers or personnel in place. Now, we're talking about fighting insecurity. And insecurity, even the last MBS report says that there's more crime in our rural communities than in our urban centers, right? So how do we now put a structure in place to see how to tackle this crime in our hinterlands?
Yeah.
You know, and these criminal elements, they are well sophisticated.
True.
When it has to do with arms and ammunition. Military and police have said that times without number that the arms that these criminal elements carry is even more than what they carry.
Are too sophisticated for that.
Exactly. So when you are putting a structure like that in place to see how to fight crime in our rural communities, how well are you arming them to be able to confront these criminal elements when they come, right? It is not for them to be carrying batons or sticks or bows and arrows alone. I think that they should be carrying what is as good as what these criminals are carrying, right? So that they'll be able to confront them. And the whole idea about this, having this structure, is to see that they're able to stand in the gap, right? For where these conventional security agents cannot get to as quickly as possible, they can stand in the gap while doing that to see how to get support. Or when the conventional security agents now have their way into these communities, right, they can now see that they have the backing of the police and the military. But I think there's a whole lot that we need to do. We should have a situation where governors don't have total control.
Yeah.
Yes, because when they have such structure on ground, and you see the impunity that these governors carry, it's so alarming that if you allow them to control some of these structures, they will use it as an advantage over perceived political opponents or enemies and all that.
But at the moment, Dr. Steve, the governors themselves already have a certain level of control over the security structure or apparatus in their states, considering the fact that they are the state's chief security officers. What more different control do you think the governors can have over state policing that they do not have now over the current security apparatus in the state?
Now, they are chief security officers of their states, yes. But before the commissioner of police will respond to some demands from the governor, the commissioners must have to seek the clearance or permission of the
IGP.
Yeah. I think that alone is a way to see how to guide the excesses of governors.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I'll give you an instance in my state, Benue. there are killings happening in the last couple of days where they were carrying dead bodies from almost 20 of them, some part of Tiv-speaking area, you know. Why my governor is expected to be seeing that lives of citizens are protected, how they go about their lawful businesses, he's interested in seeing how to remove the chief judge of the state. So why should that be his interest? You know, he's elected to see that the lives of citizens are protected, right? Now we have a situation that is confronting us where headers, alleged headers, are killing people in T-speaking part, the Idoma speaking part, right? And I haven't seen anywhere where the governor has gone to condemn the act or even pay condolence. What I'm seeing is a state assembly voting to see how to remove the CJ, the chief judge of the state. So,
which is not supposed to be priority at hand at the moment.
Exactly.
Well, I'll come back to you, Dr. Steve, in just a moment. Let's see if we can join virtually Air Commodore Abayomi Balogun, retired, former Deputy Director of Operations of the Nigeria Air Force and founder Green Heroes Foundation, a foundation that provides care and support for Nigeria's war veterans and their families in times of need. He's also a security analyst, a former fighter pilot, and fought during the Liberia and Sierra Leone wars. A very good morning to you, sir. It's wonderful to have you join us on Morning Express. Quite a portfolio you have there. Well, you could check your mic. It's perhaps muted on your end. Just check in just a few moments, and then we'll begin the conversation.
Okay, how do you read me?
All right, I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, I was just asking Dr. Steve here in the studio about a recent declaration or signing into law, a bill in Kano State by the governor, Yusuf, the Kano Security Watch Bill that has been signed into law. Now, this is to checkmate the internal security situation in the state. We have been talking about state policing for a very long time now. And then we see adoptions of state security apparatuses like this. Do you think that more and more state governors are now tilting towards this concept or idea of state policing?
Oh, yes, but I think that's not the right approach. Because when you create policing in different ways, there will be conflict tomorrow. Because when you arm such groups of people, and they are not well trained, and they don't have the background to manage weapons, tomorrow they will use that weapons against the state. So we have to be very careful when we are creating all these state apparatus and community apparatus. If we go ahead and do that, there will be proliferation of such organizations. And when not properly monitored and integrated into the national security architecture, then they become lost unto themselves after the conflict is over. So I think it's not a good idea for me, though I believe in community policing, but I think what we should do is develop the communities to a point where we call them security without guns, where we can just get intelligence from them and then leave the weapons in the hands of the authority. People who have been trained, professionals who know how to handle that. But then when we go down and say, let us arm this group of people to be able to fight the other group of people, it might be difficult to manage in the future.
Well, quite very strong and pertinent points you have made there, but the argument concerning state policing is such that different states have different peculiarities with regards to their security challenges. The security challenge you find in Ogun State is not the same one as the one you find in Borno State. The security challenge you find in Benue State is more tilted towards the herder farmer crisis. And you know, in different parts, even in the FCT, the security challenge is not terrorism, is not banditry, is not kidnapping. It's more tilted towards the one chance situation that we find now. Now, the argument is that these state policing systems are meant to mitigate key security issues peculiar to different states. Do you still think that at this point there is no need, given these recruits arms, to ensure that they combat crime and criminality in the states?
Yeah, thank you. State policing is different from, some other groups. State policing is a good idea because they know the terrain, the people there can monitor their specific areas and challenge the specific criminal.
Yeah.
But then if we go out of that, like we said, the ones being created, most states in the north are not state police. So when we now adopt the state policing, how would they be integrated together? So you have conflict of interest here and there. Yes, if you are going for state policing, let it be, state policing, let it be state policing everywhere. Not that a state will do something, a security outfit, another state will do it all. Yes, we can work it out, but it will be difficult to integrate all of them. What happens if you have pursuit, like a criminal is escaping from one state to the other? How do you now follow? Because the state security outfit in different states have their different approaches. So it's something we have to really sit down and integrate and give them guidelines on how to, integrate these resources together. And it's for a common goal. It's not just for the state, it's for the nation, because they may leave Zamfara state, move to Katsina, go to Kano, and it keeps spreading. But if we have an interwoven security system, yes, they leave Zamfara state and goes into Katsina. What follows? So that's why I said we must sit down, all of us, and say, how do we go about it? Yes, security is everybody's responsibility. It's all our challenge. And then, but we must collectively agree on the way forward. If not, it won't work out. It will become segmented, and everybody will be doing as it pleases.
Well, coming back to you in the studio here, Dr. Steve, if we take a look at the holistic approach towards, ensuring regional security in the country, the Southwest has the Amotekun, which has so far proven to be the most effective of all of these security outfits. The Southeast has the Ebubago, and of course, in places like Kano, you have the Hisba police, which many people argue is just a morality police and not necessarily one that helps to combat, crimes or vices in the state. How do we ensure that when these security outfits are created, they are not just channeled or tilted towards a certain cause by the state governors, but rather to ensure the entire and total security of the state?
Now, the Commodore said a lot of things that deserves an answer.
Okay, carry on.
Now, I don't think Nigeria is ripe for state police.
Why?
Why? Because our governors are not serious to have state police. Oh. That is one. How committed, how interested are they to see that they establish what they call state police? How many states are viable to be able to pay when they recruit people to come into the fold to serve as state police? Now, we have the federal police that is still struggling, the federal government is still struggling with how to fund the federal police in the area of equipment, logistics, arms, ammunition, and all that. They are still grappling with it. Now, how many states are viable? The answer is no state. Apart from maybe Lagos or Port Harcourt or Rivers and all that. The other states, what's their internally generated revenue? How much do they even get from the federal government allocation? Now, we have a central police. We have a central military. Now, if you want to begin to say how to fight crime locally, we cannot have it in disintegrated form. Kano is doing its own, Kaduna is doing its own, Katsina is doing its own, and
with different motives.
With different motives. We should have also a central structure, that if we have a structure in Katsina, that structure will also work in tune with the structure that we have in Borno or other states. How do we answer that now? There's a bill to establish the Nigeria Forest Security Service that was sponsored by the current vice president when he was a senator. What that means is that he knows the importance of having a local structure such as the Nigerian Forest Security Service.
Yeah.
This Nigerian Forest Security Service has command in the 36 states plus Abuja. They have offices in the 774 local government, right?
Yes.
Now, this Nigerian Forest Security Service, they have members that are former military or police retired officers, right? I know of the headquarters here where they have a retired brigadier general that is a consultant. They have a retired AIG of police that is also a consultant that are consulting for the Nigerian Forest Security Service.
Yeah.
So they are bringing their wealth of experience, right, to bear, to see how to contribute, to see that crime can be fought locally. Criminals hibernate in these our forests. They find our forests as a safe haven. They kidnap, carry victims, and keep in these same forests that we have in our various communities. Now, these guys live in these our communities, right? In the event where they see something strange, something suspicious, anybody that, just the way security is everybody's responsibility.
Yeah.
In the event where in my community I see somebody that is suspicious and all that, I will report to the Nigerian Forest Security Service because I know that they are in our various communities. Now, when we have that central structure and it is institutionalized into the security architecture, when that is, if the president assents
to the bill,
it will go a long way in trying to see how to address these security issues in our local communities. Now, the president talked about having a national forest guard in his manifesto. How does he want to implement that to see that having a national forest guard can combat insecurity in Nigeria? I think that a way to go to address that is to see how to tinker around the bill that is supposed to establish the Nigerian Forest Security Service. I think that if they bring that organization on board, it will also help. It will go a long way in addressing these security issues. Then we should begin, because we are talking about state police. These people also live in their various local communities. Yeah. You understand? So they also contribute in addressing the issues in our communities. So I think that we should look in that direction for now. If there is no improvement,
to ensure that our forests are guarded and manned properly, the way rural and urban cities are also manned.
Absolutely.
Well, let me come back to you, Air Commodore. You have heard it from Dr. Steve talking about the forest guards and all of that. And we all know that when it comes to crime and kidnapping and banditry and all of that, the forest is usually the go-to place for these non-state actors who carry out these vices. If we take a look at it holistically in the northeast or in Borno State particularly, you have the Sambisa forest that the Boko Haram has made its home. In the southwest, we recently heard that the southwest governors had ordered Amotekun to sweep through the southwest forest to flush out certain foreign elements invading the southwest. And also, if you take a look at the southeast, you'd find that the Eastern Security Network, the ESN, alongside IPOB and all of those other vices, operate in certain forest areas of the southeast. Is this timely to ensure that perhaps a national forest guard is created to flush out these criminal elements from Nigeria's forest, a place that they have decided to make their safe haven?
Okay, thank you. Establishing a forest guard, for me, it's a good approach, but it won't be comprehensive. In the sense that, is it everywhere that has forest in Nigeria? What happened to Abuja? What happened to those other places that does not have forest? Yeah. I think if we are going to secure Nigeria, we need to go back and say, what measures do we need to comprehensively secure Nigeria? And I suggested some time ago that we should change our approach from the bottom down approach, from the top to bottom approach we currently practice, to bottoms up approach. How does the bottoms up approach work? It starts from every community, and we engage the members of the community, the guys at the grassroots, where the crime starts, either in the forest or out of the forest. The people at the grassroots are the first point of contact with major crimes. So if we integrate them, we have to be deliberate. It's more than saying something and saying something. It's a concept that we have to deliberately recruit these guys, make them see something and say something, but we must create that channel of communication. We must empower them to be able to see something and say something. And it goes all the way up, from the community to the local government, from the local government to the state, from the state to the federal. Then we know how to handle it comprehensively. That's the way I think Nigeria should go now, because everybody is doing whatever they want to do. There are forests truly, but then are there forests all over Nigeria? And there are some forests that people claim are forests. To me, they are not forests, because we have air power. I'm a retired Air Force officer, and I know what the difference is when we are looking from the sky and see a forest that you can't penetrate, and other places they call forest, you will see all the way. Like Sambisa Forest, for me, it's not a forest that we should be feared. It's a forest that an aircraft up there will see anything that is on there. But then we are not integrating all our assets and resources together. So to do that, it will require a lot of sitting and then get ideas from different people and comprehensively structure Nigeria. And let's start from the bottom, where I call the first line of defense, which is security without guns. They just see it and tell you, but they must be empowered to be able to do that. Then it goes all the way to the national level. Now, at the grassroots, who do we get to do such jobs? Like he said that Dr. Steve said that currently the forest guys are engaging some military personnel. Let me tell you guys that Nigeria has some military assets that are all over Nigeria in different communities. Those are the retired military assets which we can gather together. They can be rich, they can be combined, they can be harnessed to serve that, because you have trained them, you have empowered them to do everything you want them to do. But they are in retirement and they can still be serviceable. Now, apart from the military men, you have retired policemen, you have retired civil servants who are also within those communities. But if you don't engage them positively, do this for me, they will be there and they will not help you. But Nigeria has spent so much money empowering those guys to that level. So we should go back and say, how do we utilize these guys to help us from the community level, and the whole nation will be covered. That's what I want to do, because I would like us to do, instead of going in different segments and say, let's solve this one around the forest, let's solve this one around the desert. No, let's create a comprehensive approach to solving our security challenges.
Well, Dr. Steve, he has made quite very strong points here, especially talking about the retired military personnel and police officers as well, who might have been retired by means of the number of service or the number of years they have done in service, but they are still mentally and physically fit and active to still contribute their own quota to, you know, this holistic fight against insecurity in the country.
Yes. Now, you see, we have a whole lot of them there. Yeah. And unfortunately, the government is not engaging them. You know, I see retired air vice marshals, major generals, rear admirals, and all that. Rather than giving what they have experienced during the years while they were in service, the government spent a whole lot of money training them abroad and within. At the end of their retirement and all that, you see them going to engage themselves in a farm. You know,
to retire peacefully.
Yes. So rather than seeing them come up with, engaging them, coming up with ideas and all that.
Or even set up an entire department with regards to just retired servicemen who should be contributing their quota to it.
Now, I still want to address the issue of how to combat crime locally.
Okay.
Right. You see, I have taken my time to look at the objectives and the aim of the Nigerian Forest Security Service. It's not about providing security for the forested region alone. Yeah. You understand? But just to add to what the Commodore has said, it is about looking at the organization and trying to see how to perhaps expand the scope. Yeah. Right? You know, the areas he is trying to raise, areas that he's trying to bring up can also be inculcated, you know, or added to it.
And fine-tuned.
And fine-tuned, right? So that this is what we talk about. Look at the process that, what they call the Nigerian Civil Defense went through before they now became
a full-fledged
security organization.
Agency.
Yeah. That is, the Nigerian Foreign Security Service has also passed through all that. The first, second, third reading for it to be established and all that. Now, if we want to go back to begin to start a process again, it will go through the same process, right?
It will take such a
As
long
it took
time.
it, exactly. So I think that it's for the government to sit down, look at it. There's also a bill to establish the Nigerian Vigilante Group of Nigeria that was sponsored by the current speaker when he was an honorary member of the House, right? So they can bring those two structures together. The whole aim or the whole idea is to see how to tackle crime locally, right? They can fine-tune them and say, okay, perhaps give it a name that the government deserves to give. Their responsibility and mandate is to see that they fight crime in our local community. They don't have any business with the urban centers, right? So that there can be security presence in our rural communities. There's no presence of security in our rural communities. You can take that to the bank. There is no presence of security in our rural communities, and that is why these criminals come. They strike. They had their time or have their time to strike, kill, and they go. Nothing happens to them. At the end of the day, you will see a situation where one of them is either arrested or killed by these communities. You know, I listened to the current DG of the DSS. He said when he was a DG, when he was the director of SSS in Bauchi State, terrorists went to Azare, a community, and all that, and members of the communities came out, fought them, right? Because they had the opportunity to bear arms, right? And since that attack that the terrorists came, they never returned again. So what we have is a structure that can fight, sophisticated, with arms and ammunition to see how to fight these people. I think it will go a long way in addressing some of these issues.
Well, talking about arms and ammunition and with regards to this statement you have just made, now calls have been made for enhancing national security through a centralized framework for arms control. And we recently saw the Nigerian Senate, querying the Nigerian police over missing 3,907 firearms from the police coffers, which most likely have fallen into the wrong hands. How do we address this issue? On one hand, we would want citizens to own arms to be able to protect themselves. On the other hand, things could go haywire when these arms fall into the wrong hands.
Now, we have, I think it's the most recent addition, security agency that was signed into law. Very recently, President Bola Tinubu signed the bill to have a National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons that is headed by a retired police DIG. Now, as we speak, we have well over 6 million arms and ammunition in circulation in the hands of non-state actors.
Over 6 million?
Yes, over 6 million in the hands of non-state actors, terrorizing Nigeria and Nigerians. Now, we have such center for the control of small arms and light weapons. I am aware that they have zonal offices and all that, but how effective are they? I think I would love a situation where we can see that the arms that we have in circulation, and we get a report from such security agency that we now have perhaps like 10,000 arms and ammunition in the hands of non-state actors. That means there's a drastic reduction in the ones that we have in circulation. I think I will appreciate a situation like that. How effective are they? How are they working? Do they have state offices beyond zonal offices? So we need to see that they are really working. Because these arms and ammunition, of course, in the hands of non-state actors, of course, it brings a lot of threats, to the well-being of Nigerians and the country, right? And the national security strategy that we have, the reviewed one, what's the aim of that document? Is to see that Nigerians' sovereignty, Nigerians' territorial integrity, national interest, the well-being of the citizens and the country's institutions are preserved, protected, and enhanced. Are we seeing ourselves in that situation? If we don't have a situation where we can control these small arms and light weapons that is in circulation, my brother, we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder.
Now, let me come back to you, Air Commodore Balogun. Well, you had earlier raised the point about, security without arms with regards to the state policing And now we are talking about the control of arms and ammunition in the country, where, you know, as Dr. Steve has said, there are over 6 million, firearms in the hands of non-state actors in a country of a little over 200 million Nigerians. That's quite a very worrying figure to find out. How do we balance this between ensuring that citizens who are licensed to own firearm do so, and also to ensure that these firearms do not end up falling into the wrong hands?
All right, thank you very much. Insecurity starts from somewhere. Weapons in the wrong hands. But then you can counter that, because all the people you are talking about that are carrying illegal arms are within Nigeria. They are Nigerians. So there are Nigerians who will see them. Who knows? But can the government reach out to them? No. So you still need intelligence down the line to be able to track and trace all these illegal weapons, which people know where they are. At a point in time, you could go to markets in Bama and Baga and buy weapons. But then, after the Libyan crisis, all the weapons in the Arab world came down to Baga. So you could walk in there and buy whatever you need. So illegal weapons, especially due to our porous borders, can find way into Nigeria. But then if you engage the people on the ground to tell you what they see, they will definitely see them. And then you take the intelligence up to the people that will act on that intelligence. And I go back to that issue of veterans all over Nigeria. Currently, there are two bodies managing the affairs of ex-servicemen. There is the Veteran Federation of Nigeria. There is the Nigerian Legion. And between the two of them, they have over 100,000 people, both on pension and non-pensionable veterans, who are all over Nigeria. Yeah. Just give them the go-ahead. Unless these people give them instruction of what to do, it won't take you 1 week, because they already have the database of all those guys. And they are all over Nigeria. Every community have them. But we only need to integrate them and tell them what to do. When we go ahead and create agencies based on whatever is happening at the moment, we will never stop. It will be one agency of government to the other, and at the end of the day, there's no synergy between them. They will start fighting inter-agency rivalry. So let's look at it comprehensively in a holistic approach. Like he said, Dr. Steve said, the national security strategy that is still operational is the 2019 national security strategy. And it calls for an all-inclusive, all-of-nation approach to securing our nation. It did not say this place should have its own security outfit or that. But then, have we executed that thing? No. Up to now, it's still lying in the cooler wherever it is. But we need to bring out that national security strategy 2019, reappraise it, look at what is still relevant and what is no longer relevant, and put it to use, and we shall secure our nation. For me, I don't agree with the creation of different agencies to solve different problems. Let's look at it comprehensively, and I think we can overcome.
Well, Doctor, you were going to say something?
Yes.
Okay, carry on.
In as much as I agree with Commodore,
yeah.
I want to make reference to the U.S.
Yeah.
When Osama bin Laden struck the 2/11.
Yeah.
Then W. Bush was the president.
Certainly.
Bush did not say that, no, because we have the secret service, we have the CIA or the FBI and all that, or the police. We're not going to do something how to tackle terrorism.
Yeah.
And that gave rise to the establishment of the Homeland Security, right? The whole idea about the Homeland Security is squarely, their mandate is to see how to tackle terrorism.
Terrorism.
Yes. That was the reason why it was...
Stemming from probably neighborhoods or anything, intelligence gathering.
Simple. And you can see that since that Osama bin Laden attack,
yeah,
there have been some reasonable improvement, right, against the fight
against
terrorism when it has to do, when it has to do with the U.S. Now, Commodore mentioned Veterans Association of Nigeria or something.
And then the Nigerian Legion.
Now, when we have a structure such as what I said about the Forest Security Service,
Yeah.
and I said it here that members of the Nigerian Forest Security Service are made up of community leaders, retired police and military officers. They are members of this body. Now there's a Veteran Association of Nigeria, which is a key element that should be fused, because they are found in all our communities. If you go to my community now, you see a retired sergeant, staff sergeant, W02, they are all there. They are just redundant. If they manage to go to their farms and return, they find themselves under one tree. And the next thing you see them taking one aromatic schnapp or something. You can engage them when it has to do with what we are talking about here. Yeah. If they are not active members, they can serve as advisory bodies, and see how to guide the other officers of the
and tap into their wealth of experience as well.
Yeah.
Much like persons like the Air Commodore.
Exactly. So it is not about establishing security structures or organizations. I think that we should see that we think outside the box. Yeah. Do we have presence of security in our rural communities? The answer is no. Now we are aware of the problem. We are aware of the challenge. We should be thinking of solution to the problem that we are already aware of. How do we now have presence of security in our rural communities? The DSS DG said it in one of his appearances. I watched him on TV. He said, if we leave security in the hands of DSS police, the military alone, it cannot work. And that was why he suggested that communities should also have bear arms to see how to defend themselves. Yes. But I am against communities bearing arms to defend their community. In doing that, why shouldn't we have a structure that that their activities can be coordinated? When you say communities should bear arms, you cannot coordinate that. You cannot monitor their activities. How do you now begin to say how to monitor their activities?
Now that also brings us back to the statement earlier made by the Air Commodore, where he said that at some point during the Libyan uprising, the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, so much arms had infiltrated into the country. Yes. Through the borders, that you could go to Bama or Baga and literally buy firearms from the market. Mm-hmm. And we also saw a recent report, a U.S. report indicting USAID, a very major NGO that has contributed largely to aid when it comes to the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, indicting it about funding terrorism in Nigeria.
Yes.
How do we ensure that these cases of sabotage within the system are curtailed? Because for such huge amounts of arms to have infiltrated the country, it must have taken some connivance.
Absolutely.
How do we checkmate that?
You see, we can checkmate that by seeing that, first of all, we have to take charge or take care of our recruitment process.
Yeah.
I saw recently a dismissed soldier entered the immigration and also went into the immigration as an officer and committed an offense. Again. It was when he was arrested as an immigration officer, they discovered that he was a dismissed soldier. What is wrong with our data? Somebody that was dismissed from the military or from the army was now enlisted into the immigration. Then something is wrong. We have problem with our recruitment process, right?
Yeah.
We have seen soldiers or police and all that as soldiers and as police officers committing crime that they are mandated constitutionally not to see that they prevent. They are armed constitutionally with the arms that they give them to commit crime. So there's something wrong with our recruitment process. That's one. How do we do vetting as agencies of government, security agencies of government? How well do we vet? These are processes. Do we do background check?
We saw a recent mass recruitment of police officers into the Nigeria police much recently. A move that has been praised by political supporters of the people who engineered this mass recruitment, while also being flogged by security analysts or experts like yourself, who have cited that the mass recruitment and lack of proper vetting is completely appalling.
Yes, it's appalling. I will shock you. If you go to check this mass recruitment now, you discover that there are some of them there that are not even bearing their real names. They might have come in with somebody's else's certificate, right, to enlist into the police. We have seen situations where a police officer that was trying to collect bribe from a motorist in Lagos, a sergeant at that matter, when he was arrested and all that, they discovered it wasn't his real name that he used in enlisting to the police. So the whole lot is...
And rose all the way up to the rank of sergeant.
And beyond that, the mass recruitment that you see, a lot of them don't even have passion for the job.
They just want to
a political leader somewhere will just draw up a list and say, come and go and join the police without the person having interest. And when the person gets into such force, you think that he'll be passionate about doing the job?
Now that's also something I want the Air Commodore to address, being that he has served, the country in the Nigerian Air Force in his capacity as, a former fighter pilot, and also having done tremendously for the nation. How do we address this issue of, indiscriminate recruitment, mass recruitment of individuals into Nigeria security agencies, people who do not really have passion for the job, but just want to be employed in that sense? And then also checkmating political leaders who just draw up a list of individuals from their constituency as a means of constituency project to give them jobs in Nigeria security agencies.
Thank you very much. The challenge we have in that sector is lack of central data management. Because today you go anywhere, they will capture your biometrics in the bank, they will capture it in the post office, they will capture it in the market. But we have a central database where just a fingerprint is enough to tell your history. I'm not sure we have that. And until we get to that level, you will find people using different names and different whatever to get access to whatever they want. So we must develop that. That's why one of the problems we have in Nigeria place, you must go to that agency. One agency should be able to access your data and tell your history. We have it, and I don't know why we are not integrating those things that we capture every day. INEC we capture, everybody we capture. But what do we do with it? Until we go ahead and establish that central data management system, so that just a fingerprint will tell your life history, we will still be roaming around, because we can't check it. Everybody has influence. Everybody has interest somewhere. So it will keep. This is not a
very complex technology.
Yeah, right.
This is not a very complex technology, or a system of technology that is too big. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I was citing that this technology you have mentioned, where just a single fingerprint can be used to assess an individual, is not too complex or too expensive for Nigerians to acquire. So why are we not tilting or moving towards that direction in the fight against insecurity?
I wouldn't know why, but for me, we are not just thinking. We are working hard. We are working hard every day, but we are not working smart. When you work smart, you sweat less and you get the job done. But we are laboring ourselves all over the place rather than doing the small little things that is required, that technology has been available that it can do for us. Now, please, let me go back to that issue of homeland security that Dr. Steve talked about. Yes, after the 9/11, Americans saw the challenge and discovered that counter-terrorism cannot be solved by agencies alone. It must be an all-inclusive approach, which our national security strategy has suggested. So they went back. How do we get everybody on board? And they came up with the the homeland security. What does homeland security entail? It entails engaging everybody. I will say this. I just published a book recently, and I think it was titled Amid the Chaos and Uncertainties Nigeria Can Overcome. And I suggested the approach to creating a homeland security system for Nigeria, almost similar to what they have in America. Yes, we may not have the sophistication, but we have to start somewhere, and then we upgrade it. is starting from the grassroots. That was my suggestion. Start from the grassroots.
So what's the difference?
Hello, sir. It appears your connection is a little bit distorted, but Dr. Steve,
Oh,
you...
To secure
okay.
Nigeria.
Okay. All right, fantastic. Dr. Steve was nodding in approval while you were speaking. Do you care to chip in some more?
Yeah, no, I appreciate what the Commodore has said. You know, initially he was in a disagreement that there's no need to establish or create something new.
Yeah.
Right. But he has made a suggestion in his book, right, that something like a homeland security can be created, which is, of course, once if that is taken by the government as a suggestion from his book, it means that a structure, a new one is being created, you know, to see how to address these issues we are talking about.
Sure.
Now, I am of the opinion too that there's need for something new, you know, beyond all these things. For me, what the police is doing, what the military is doing, and the DSS and all that, we are still doing the same thing. And we cannot continue to do the same thing over and over again and we expect a different result.
Certainly.
How do we now bring up something new? You know, to say, okay, since we have established and I agree that crime is local, most of the crimes are committed in our rural communities where there's no security presence. What do we now do as a government, as a country, to see that there's something that will be on ground to checkmate the excesses and the activities of criminal elements in our rural community? If what the Commodore is suggesting in his book can tackle crime locally, I'll key in.
Yeah.
You know, I'll key in. Let us see how to fight this locally. Locally, that's the only way we can go for now. Because considering our environment, our topography, and all that, some of these communities where these crimes happen don't have access road. In the event where these things are happening, these violent attacks are happening,
getting access to the situation zone might be difficult.
might be difficult, and that is why most times we are reactive. So how do we now become proactive?
Yeah.
Is to see that there should be something on ground that in the event where these incidents, violence incidents happen, something is there to see how to take it up. Now, I was called as a guest speaker by the Nigerian police force to talk about crisis situation when it has to do with adoption of children from schools. And I told the participants and audience, police officers, civil defense officers, what do you call them now? Vigilante, Nigerian forest security guards, all of that. It was that day I knew that there was even a Fulani intelligence group or unit.
I'm just hearing it for the first time.
Yes, the JTF, civilian JTF, they were all there. The whole was just jam-packed. And I told them that what we are discussing here, the problem is in our rural communities. What do we have that is on ground in our rural communities that in the event where these bandits come to adopt our school children, who are the first responders to respond
and then call for backup?
Who are they? They couldn't give me an answer. You know?
Big questions here. I will come back to you, Dr. Steve, in just a moment. Let's get Air Commodore's final thoughts on this particular issue before we let him go. Your final comments.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
let me just give this hint.
Oh, shit.
The rules are bad. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Please carry on.
Okay. Now, if we adopt what I'm preaching, the guy at the grassroots are empowered to be able to communicate with us using technology. I will tell you an example. You are there in Gusape. I am somewhere along Airport Road.
Yeah.
And I see a crime on Airport Road. And me and you, we are on the same platform as we are now. And I take my phone and say, this is what I'm seeing right here. You in Gusape, will you not see it? If we are on the same frequency.
Certainly.
You will. So if somebody in the forest of Zamfara is seeing some bandit and say, here I've seen this bandit and I have a phone, an Android phone. This is the picture, this is the video. We will see it in Abuja right away. It requires just thinking and integrating all our assets, and it will be solved. But we need to sit down. It's not a matter of mouth or talk forever. It's something critical thinkers should think about. It is solvable. We can secure Nigeria. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Air Commodore Abayomi Balogun, retired. We must thank you. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you, and we do wish you well in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Steve, in closing, just before we let you out of the studio.
Yeah. In closing, I want to agree with him that our challenges are solvable.
Yeah.
We can surmount them. And in surmounting them, right, it entails our leaders. What I mean leaders now, the ones that are saddled with the responsibility, constitutional responsibility to see that security is provided for the citizens, our territorial integrity are protected and all that. If they do what they know how to do it and do the right thing, that's one of the ways to go. Then politics should be taken out of issues that has to do with security. No, sincerely. It's not an issue where issues that have to do with security, you are blaming XYZ, XYZ is blaming...
much like the Zamfara state governor and...
I was going to go there.
Exactly.
You understand? We shouldn't have situations like that, you know. Now, I think that if we choose to do the right thing, our leaders, be it the office that you occupy, must have a vision. And we're expected that that vision is not a blurred one where you cannot see.
Yeah.
If you have a vision you cannot see through, then what are you doing? Vision, action, implementation of the vision that you have. Ensure that you leave a legacy after your exit from office. That people can point at us, okay, why he was there?
He did this, this, and that.
For posterity's sake.
Quite a very good place to leave it there, Dr. Steve. I wish we had more time to discuss, but it's been a pleasure.